mystery writers, welcome to Write a Killer Mystery, where we talk about making a good mystery great. And today we're going to get down to the details of introducing your protagonist, Sleuth. First, I want to thank my patrons on Patreon for their continued support of this video series and my writing. And if you'd like to join us, there's a link in the description below where I have on Patreon special videos and other information just for patrons. So I'd love to see you join us. All right. So today we're going to talk about 2 ways to introduce your mysteries detectives so your reader cares. That's what we want. We want them to care about our protagonist so they'll follow them through the whole of the story. So at the beginning of your mystery story, along with wanting your reader to wonder what will happen next, you want to get your reader to care about your sleuth. The emotional connection that bonds your reader to your protagonist. And that connection helps them follow them through all the trials and tribulations that you give them in solving that mystery puzzle. So getting your reader to care is the first step to take the reader on the journey of your mystery. All right. Before you get too far into the mystery of the crime that your detective is going to solve, you want your reader to care about that detective. That you want them to bond with that character. So that doesn't mean they need to like that character. They just need to bond with them. It's like, I want to follow this character through this whole novel. And we've talked a lot in the series about what mystery readers expect, and one of the things they expect is a detective they want to follow through the story. So first I wanted to talk about the everyday life. It's something that is in a lot of instruction about how to start your story, and for beginning writers, that doesn't mean what it sounds like it means. It doesn't mean they get up in the morning. It doesn't mean what they eat for breakfast. You don't need to show those things. In fact, you want to avoid openings like that. You really want to get into that story. You want to show your detective in action. So give your reader a taste of who your detective is, their personality, and give them some hints about their detecting skills. Those skills that are ultimately going to help them solve the mystery. So before we look at these 2 great ways to introduce your character, you'll have a better idea if you understand the process of the story's beginning. At the beginning of your story, you're just setting up everything for your reader to let them know this is the kind of story they want to read. You don't want to give them any false promises. You just want to let them know that this is how the story is going to be told. This is who the main character is. This is where the story takes place. It's because you're making a promise that if they continue reading your story, they'll not only have a mystery, but you're showing them the type of storytelling they are going to encounter in your novel. So first of all, you need to let them know where they are. So you want to briefly introduce them to the setting. Where and when does the story take place? It just grounds the reader, all right? And what we're going to focus on today, of course, is the protagonist. Who is that protagonist? Uh, your detective serves as your reader's guide through the story, so you want to get your reader to bond with that character right away. Also, at the beginning of your story, you're telling your reader what the voice and the tone of your story is. Is it dark or lighthearted? Is it witty? Is it matter of fact? You're going to set the tone now so the reader knows this is the tone of the story and this is what you can expect in this story. You don't want to start out all sassy and then change the tone of your story. You really need to be clear about the tone of your story from the beginning, all right? And the other thing you're going to do is introduce them to the point of view. In other words, the narration. Is it third person point of view where you're using impersonal pronouns, he and she, or is it in a first person point of view where the narrator is telling the story? It may or may not be the detective, but the story is told in the first person. And so you want to give them an idea of what that's going to be like, because some readers have a very definite preference about whether they want to read first person point of view or third person point of view. For many people it doesn't matter, but there are people, so you want to let them know what it is. Okay, so setting up your reader expectations helps your reader understand what type of mystery they're going to be reading. If they like your combination, they're going to keep reading. That's why if you see people in bookstores, and they're flipping through the first few pages of the book, or for instance on Amazon, what is that called? Where Look Inside, where you can read the first few pages of the story. Those are the things that tell your reader, yes, this is the kind of book I like to read. And so they go ahead and purchase your book. So if you want to change your storytelling style, save it for another book, because this whole setup at the beginning is telling your reader this is the type of story you're going to be reading. And it's very reassuring. It's your promise to the reader that this is the kind of story they're going to be reading. So everything at the beginning is there to get your reader hooked on your story, all right? So giving them a sense of your detective provides a key to how the mystery is going to be solved. And there are two main ways to introduce your detective, and you may want to provide a bit of both. So let's look at those two ways. The first is your character's personality. You want to show their personality right away, so that's why I advise getting into action. It's much better than the tried and true waking up in the morning, blah blah blah. Get them to get a feel of your character's personality. And I think one of the easiest ways to do that is to give them an opinion about something. Another character, the town they're in, how much they love their new EV. It doesn't matter what the opinion is. It's just that they have an opinion. And that gives your reader a sense of who this character is. Your reader doesn't even have to agree with the opinion. They just have to know that your character feels this way about that. And that's how they make that connection. All right? Readers understand opinions because readers have opinions, right? And they relate to your character's opinion even if they don't agree with that opinion. Readers don't want a namby-pamby character. They want somebody who has opinions, who cares about this, doesn't care about that. And that helps them make a connection with your character right away. They want a protagonist who knows what they want. And when your character reacts with other characters in your story, their dialogue is a way to help your readers understand their personality. And I know we've talked about dialogue in particular in other episodes. And then writer Jocelyn Case suggests different character personality scales to use, and I thought this was a good way to think about ways you can think about character traits that you introduce right at the beginning. You're not going to do all of these, but you can pick and choose. Are they a team player or are they a rebel? All right. Are they an introvert or are they an extrovert? Are they a go-getter or are they laid back? Are they smart or not so smart? Are they tough or are they wimpy? Well, we don't want wimpy characters, but that can work for other characters in your story. Are they a doer or are they a dreamer? And are they a believer or are they a doubter? Are they driven or are they lazy? Are they morally upright or morally bankrupt? So if you take those if you take those opposites and put your character somewhere on the scale between the two opposites, you have kind of a framework for how they proceed in the world. And if you illustrate one or two of those traits of their personality along with their opinions, you're going to give the reader a great way to connect with your character right away. So know where to position your sleuth on those scales, and you're going to have a multi-layered personality. So besides that opinion, introduce another aspect of your character's personality to give your reader depth. The more they understand your character, the easier it is for them to connect with them. In the beginning, while we're giving them the setup for the rest of the story, you want to show your reader the spunky, intelligent, belligerent, mild-mannered, detail-oriented sleuth they're going to follow through the rest of the story. So give them that little personality hook, that thing they can hook onto. That's, oh boy, you know, this character is going to slip up a million times because they're belligerent and their anger gets in the way of what they're doing. All right, and then so we have personality. There's a lot to do to introduce the personality of your sleuth. But the other thing is, don't forget, we're detecting. Your character is detecting. So the other thing you want to do is introduce their skills. Now, your detective is probably multifaceted and has many skills, but right here at the beginning where you're setting up, you want to show your detective using a skill that they're going to use later on in the story to solve the crime. So when I talk about getting into the action at the beginning, it doesn't have to be some big crime that they're solving. It can be dispute with a neighbor or helping a little kid find their way home. It's just you're showing how your detective operates in the real world. And I was looking about getting ready for this, and there's a list curator called Incubar, and it listed some professional skills for detectives. That's professional detectives. But they're also the kind of skills an amateur detective can use as well. So you can pick and choose from these. So we have a passion for the job. They really like detecting, all right? And they have a naturally sharp instinct. They have an ability to read people. They have critical thinking, problem-solving skills because they can look at things and evaluate. They have an attention to detail. They notice the small things because oftentimes the small things are really important in finally solving the case. They have written and oral communication skills because they need to communicate with all those suspects that you have lined up for them. All right. They have computer skills because this is the 21st century. If you're writing historical novel, that's not so important, but it is something you can give your detective. They have patience. And I think that's really important because they're not going to solve the crime right away, right? We've got a whole story to work through, and they need to have patience in order to get to the end. And this is one of a real detective's, a professional detective's skills, is patience to see through the whole thing, not giving up too quickly. All right. And the other thing they have is quick recall. They remember something right away, so they can bring it back up. And this is especially important when your detective is talking to suspects, especially when they're talking to suspects, say, for the second time, and they've interviewed a lot of other suspects, and all of a sudden the person they're interviewing says something, but your detective remembers something that somebody else said that counters what this suspect is saying. So they have quick recall. All right. You get to mix and match all those skills, but you want to show one or two of them right at the beginning. You want to show your detective in action using their skills, so your reader has a sense that they have some skills, that whatever confronts them, they're going to use these skills to solve the mystery puzzle. All right, so the opening sequence is just so important because you're making all these promises to your reader about what they're going to get for the rest of the story. So you want to show your character in action. It's the easiest way to demonstrate their personality, and it is the easiest way to demonstrate their skills. And your reader learns right away how your main character, your detective, acts in the real world, how they operate, how they think, how they behave, all right? When your detective solves a problem, they interact with the people and the world around them, naturally displaying their personality and their skills that they use every day. So this is how I'm tying it back to their everyday life, right? Okay, so get them in action. Show them this is how my character works in their world on an everyday basis. The opening sequence is so important because it's how you introduce your protagonist to the reader and actually show your reader who that character is, who they are. You don't want to force them to meet your reader's expectations. You want your reader to come and meet your protagonist. So create the character that you want to show, and don't force them to be like one that you think might be liked, because remember, your reader doesn't have to like your character. They have to bond with them. They have to emotionally connect with them. Because the big problem of your mystery is solving that big crime puzzle of who did it, that's what you want your character to do, and that's what you want your reader to know. This is the personality that's going to do it, and these are the skills they're going to use. Okay, I hope that helps. Beginnings and the setup are so crucial to getting people involved in your story. If you have any questions, please get in touch or leave a comment below, because it's very challenging, and I know many authors who work and rework the beginning of the story for just this reason, because it's so important. All right, and also I wanted to remind you that Audible is a sponsor for this series, right? A Killer Mystery. And there's a link to a 30-day free trial. And one of the things that Audible has is Audible only specials. And right now I'm reading one called Winterkill. What's its name? Ragnar whoops, I don't want to say this wrong. Let me look at my phone for a second. Ragnar Jonasson, called Winterkill, which is available only on Audible. It's a great story. A crime in Iceland. So you have all those benefits of Audible only specials on Audible. So if you aren't familiar with Audible, I encourage you to give it a try and support our sponsor who supports this series. All right, thank you so much. Keep writing, and I'll see you next time.